I'm very happy to meet you again after a short break.
Awesome.
Okay.
Today, I'm starting with a small incident happened in my early school days. Um, my native place is a small village, and where we are having a house along with a garden. There some garden, some large garden. Within the large garden, we have two gates for the garden. One is the back door, and the another is the front door. And we are having a dog in our house, but we have not. We used to tie the dog in a rope. We leave the dog freely in the garden. One day, when I go to the school, I think it may be my eighth standard or something, around seventh standard or eighth standard. When I go to my school, the dog, it is freely wandering within the garden, begins to follow me along with, feline begins to follow along with me. But I tried to chase away and try to drive it away back to the garden. It refused and it followed me. But why I afraid to take the dog with me? On the way to my school, I have to cross some other streets. And in the streets, there may be some street dogs will be there. And if I bring the dog along with me, the other dogs will attack my our dog. So I am afraid to take the dog along with me. But my dog refused to obey my words, and it begins to lead me, and behind the dog I am following. So in this way, we both are moving towards our school. As I afraid, when we cross the first street, many street dogs run forward and rounded our dog in a ferocious manner. All the dogs are surrounded our dog. So I am a little boy. I cannot do any help to my dog. The dog is single, and the opposite dogs are many, and it all surrounded our dog. So what would be the nature, what would be the temperament, what would be the mind in the dog, in our dog? So it has to be naturally, it will be in a fear of attack by the other dogs. So what the dog has to do? If the dog try to escape, the other dog will sprang upon our dog and it will bite him very badly. So what is happening in that situation is that somewhat different, unexpected thing happened there. For example, we are having many friends, and when we able to meet the friends after a very long time, what will you do? We are using loving words and other things, and we will be very happy to meet all the friends again, and using very, very lovely words and kind words, and with some happiness, expressing happiness. So in this way, our dog is also doing the same thing with the other fighting dogs. So it expresses some friendly noise, and it take a round along along with the other dogs, and shaking the tails of the dog. And in this way, it's just like making a friendly noise, and it take a round around the other dogs. So the other dogs trying to attack get confused. So it do not know what to do, because they are in a ferocious way to attack our dog. But our dog is in a friendly noise, creating a friendly noise, and it has no enmity with the other dogs. It creates a friendly noise. So the other dogs is confused, quite confused. So in that situation, our dogs take a round in that situation, and thereby it find a gap between the dogs. And using the gap, it will jump and escape from the situation and safely go to our garden. So that is the thing. So here, in our mind also, some spontaneous action is there. We cannot plan the spontaneous action. It will act, it will come to our help when we are in a situation like this. So we have, from I think in the previous meeting also, we have discussed the first part of the mind and the second part of the mind. But in the first part of the mind, some capacity is there. So that is the total mind. The total, our mind may be in a different way. Some conscious mind, subconscious mind, deeper conscious mind. In this way, we can classify, or we can mind, intellect, conditioning, and the I consciousness. So everything is a part of our mind. So in the first part of our mind, the totality of our mind comes for our help. And with the totality of our mind, we can make use of the situation. We can spontaneously have the idea and the capacity to do the things in a spontaneous way. So that is the first part of the mind. And the second part of mind alone is only to it is a wandering mind. It is goes here and there, thinking right and wrong. So it is a secondary part. The first part and the primary part is the total mind, and the second part is only a partial mind. And the partial mind cannot meet the situation. Only the total mind alone is capable of meeting any situation. The situation may be pre-planned, unplanned. It may be some unexpected thing, but whatever it may be, the total mind is an open mind. It can meet any situation. So that is our original state of our mind. But we cannot try to invite the total mind. The total mind is always there. It is not going anywhere. It is already with ourselves. We need not worry about the first part of the mind, the totality of the mind. But we are unnecessarily, we are having the wandering mind, and the wandering mind goes here and there and thinking this and that, and we are confusing ourselves in this way or that way. So that is the problematic portion of the second part of the mind. So what is the duty of the second part of the mind? It has to leave the situation, leave everything in the hands of the first part, in the hands of the totality of the mind. So that is the duty of the second part of the mind. That is the duty of the wandering part of mind. For this, we can conclude this, and afterwards we can have our discussion. And Lannery, you can translate all those things in your own language, along with the story of the dog.
Thank you, Sri Bagavath.
Okay.
Just a clarification with the first part and the second part.
Okay.
Just a minute. Okay. So when you speak about the first part, it is obvious it's the original, it's the spontaneous part. When you speak of the second part, do you speak of our wandering mind?
Wandering mind.
The one that intervenes, the ones that say this is this and this is that?
That? Yeah, I mean that.
Okay. So I will continue with the translation.
Okay.
So, אז שרי בגבת, בוקר טוב לכולם. שרי בגבת שיתף את סיפור שקרה לו בילדותו, היה בכיתה, בערך כיתה ח', וכשהוא היה ילד היה להם חצר, הוא היה גר בדרום הודו, בכפר קטן, והיה להם חצר אחורית וחצר קדמית, והיה להם כלב גם, והכלב הזה היה משוטט בחצר בחופשיות, לא היו קושרים אותו. ויום אחד ששרי בגבת מיהר ללכת לבית ספר, הכלב עקב אחריו, ושרי בגבת ניסה לגרש אותו, אבל בכל מקרה אפילו הלך לפניו, הוביל אותו, ושרי בגבת כבר איחר, וכבר לא יכל לטפל בזה. וכמו שהוא חשש, כשהם הגיעו לאחד הרחובות, הקיפו את הכלב שלו חבורה של כלבים, כלבי רחוב, במטרה לתקוף אותו. וכמובן שהכלב הקטן הוא אחד והם רבים, הוא נכנס למצב של פחד, אבל במקום לברוח במצב הזה, הכלב התחיל להוציא קולות של ידידות וחברות כזה עם הכלבים האחרים. וכך הוא יצר איזשהו בלבול בהתייחסות של הכלבים האחרים, כי הם רצו לתקוף אותו ופתאום הוא עושה קולות של חברות וידידות, כאילו הם חברים שהוא לא פגש הרבה שנים. ואז בעצם הוא, תוך כדי שהוא מוציא את הקולות האלה, הכלב הזה, כלב של שרי בגבת, הוא יצר מרחק מהכלבים האחרים והצליח להסתלק מהמקום בלי שהוא יחטוף אפילו נשיכה אחת. אז שרי בגבת זה עשה עליו מאוד רושם הסיפור הזה, ועובדה שעד היום הוא זוכר את זה, והוא בעצם מקביל את זה לתודעה האנושית. התודעה האנושית יכולה בכל רגע נתון להתמודד עם כל מצב שעולה, גם אם המצב נראה מאוד עגום, כמו המצב של הכלב שמוקף בהרבה כלבים אחרים שרוצים לנשוך אותו, בעצם מאיימים על החיים שלו. והוא הקביל את זה למודל שלו, שהוא מדבר על החלק הראשון ועל החלק השני של המים. אז החלק הראשון, כמו ששרי בגבת אומר, זה החלק הספונטני, זה החלק שאנחנו נולדים איתו, זה החלק של החוכמה האינטואיטיבית, זה החלק של איזושהי ידיעה שקטה של הדברים, והחלק הזה הוא יודע להתמודד עם כל דבר. החלק השני, האינטלקט, מתפתח אחר כך, הוא מתפתח מגיל בערך 2.5 ואילך בהדרגה, וזה החלק בתוכנו שהוא שבגבעת מגדיר אותו כ-wandering mind, הוא נע מפה לשם, משם לשם, ויש לו דעות ורעיונות על כל דבר, ותפיסות שהולכות ומתקבעות. בעצם זה החלק שמופעל על ידי, שהביטוי המובהק שלו זה החשיבה, חשיבה שהיא הרבה פעמים חשיבה, מדמים את זה כמו קוף שקופץ מענף לענף, וכשאנחנו הולכים אחרי החשיבה הזאת, אז בעצם אנחנו מונעים את הפעולה של החלק הראשון. That's it, Shri Bagavath.
Okay. And if anybody has some any discussion on this subject, you can raise your question.
In the last meeting, Shri Bagavath,
Okay.
you spoke about the first part being everything, like you didn't make the division between thoughts, emotions, sensations, and you said that the constant flow of this mind is the first mind, that the spontaneous flow
Spontaneous flow
is the first mind.
Yeah.
But now you seem to say something a little bit different. You seem to say that what is the difference between the wandering mind, which is also thoughts, emotions, and what is the difference between that and the natural flow that you speak of?
So the natural flow, even though the natural flow is always there, but the one portion of the mind, so that is the wandering portion of the mind, always moving here and there. That is also going down there. So that is a functional thing. It is functioning like this. Actually, the secondary part has some two roles. The first role is a sensitivity role. It has to sensitivity, have listening, all senses are related to the mind, the later part, the sensitive part or the mind part or the wandering part. The other one is that it has to supply some message, this and that. Then only we have to have some many options. If you execute some duty or anything, we must have we have to discuss with many options. Then only we can come to a conclusion which option is a good one to execute the duty. So it is the nature of the wandering part of the mind to go this and that. Then only it has to find out which one is the correct. But if the total mind will not have any oscillation, it will directly into the action. There cannot be any decision-making process. There is no gap between the decision and the action. It is a spontaneous of everything. But if there's some portion of the mind is known as the wandering part. That is the wandering part will be functioning like this. It is also functioning always, even though the first part and the total part of the mind may it is a natural part, but at the same time the wandering part also will having the role. Then only we can have some options, some discussion with the nature of the to take some decision in some planning of our work. For that, we have to give many ideas. So the wandering part has to supply many ideas. So that is a thing. Even though it is a secondary part, but at the same time, it always taking the primary role of supplying this and that.
So, in order to understand better, we take the example of the dog. So, you say that in the dog, let's say that he was a person, the first part was functioning in that situation?
First part is functioning.
So, and the second part was maybe the thoughts coming to his mind, I have to run away, they will eat me in a few minutes, and what can I do? This is what you mean by the second part?
But in the crucial situation, the second part will not function. Only the total part of the mind alone will function. But before that, before the crucial function or after the crucial function, then the second part may function. What will be next? What will be this? What we have to do? What we should not do? In this way, we can have some oscillation. We can produce some options. What we have to do this way or that way. It can produce a. But in the crucial situation, there cannot be any option. It was some doing alone will be there, action alone will be there. So the total part alone will be there.
Okay, but this is like a situation which is extreme, like in a crisis situation.
Crisis situation.
Like you are driving in the car, and suddenly a truck comes before you. So you don't have even time to think. You just do. Either you
you will spontaneously. Your action will be spontaneous.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, but so what is our duty? Like we think we are the second part. Yes, we think we are the second part. We are identified as the second part.
No.
So, what is our duty in the what we should do after hearing these descriptions that you speak of? What do you say is the duty of the second part?
So here we have to, just like a minister to the king, it has to give many options to our duty, how to execute the duty or execute the situation, to face the situation. But at the same time, the main portion of the mind is to it has to be attentive, it has to be some receptive mode. So actually watching and listening and some sensitivity is only a receptive mode. The receptive mode is the main duty of the second part. That is the submission part. The submission part is the main role of the second part. It has to receptive. The receptive thing alone, it has to watch, it has to feel, it has to it has to be in a function in a receptive mode. The functioning in a receptive mode is the main duty of the second part. So afterwards, the suggestive things may be what we have to do next, what we have to do now first, or in this way, it can think. You can think in this way or that way. But the main thing is the receptive mode is the main thing that the second part has to do. But when the crisis or anything, when the action is there, the total mind will function. Where the second part alone will not take the role, the entire part, the entire totality of our mind will enter into the scene and it will execute the work. So the duty of the second part, the main duty of the second part is to be keep itself in a receptive mode. So then only listening, watching, and that means we are not deliberately doing that. Not deliberately doing watching, but we have to understand the watching and listening is the deliberate. It is the main duty of the second part. And but we think the thinking here and there, the unnecessary things alone is our duty. That we are mistakenly doing. Understand that the second part is understanding like this. The thinking this and that is the duty of the second part. But at the second part, we have to understand the receptive mode is the main role of the second part. That we have to.
So you mean to say, if I understand you correctly, that the second part should not give so much importance to the thinking process because he has to use it as a tool, but not give too much importance to that.
Yeah.
And he has to know that there is the first part that is much wiser, much more intelligent than himself. And he has to give way to the intelligence of the first part to function.
Okay.
So I'll try to translate.
Okay.
אז אני שאלתי את שרי בגבת לגבי החלק הראשון והחלק השני, מה בעצם ההבדל ביניהם? כי בשיעור שעבר בעצם שרי בגבת אמר שגם המחשבות, גם הרגשות, גם התחושות, כשהם קורים באופן ספונטני, הם חלק מהחלק הראשון. אז לאחר כל הדברים שדיברנו, ההבנה שלי היא שהחלק השני זה בעצם החלק בתוכנו שנותן חשיבות עליונה למחשבות, לדעות, לרעיונות, לתפיסות. והוא בעצם שוכח שהחוכמה והתבונה והראייה הנכונה מגיעות לא ממנו, אלא מהחלק הראשון. וזה כמו שהירח היה חושב שהתבונה מגיעה מעצמו, האור מגיע מעצמו, והיה שוכח שבעצם הוא מקבל את כל האור מהשמש. אז באותו אופן, החלק השני, מי שאנחנו חושבים שאנחנו, הוא סוג של מכשיר, סוג של תפקוד. כשהוא נותן את מלוא החשיבות למחשבות, לדעות, לתפיסות, אז הוא בעצם, מה שהוא עושה זה, הוא בעצם חוסם את ההתערבות הישירה או את התפקוד הישיר של החלק הראשון, החלק היותר עמוק שלנו, וכאשר הוא מבין שהוא בסך הכל מכשיר שדרכו החלק הראשון יכול לפעול, אז הוא נותן הרבה פחות חשיבות למחשבות, לתפיסות ולרעיונות, והוא נותר יותר כחלק שהוא מאזין, שהוא מקשיב, שהוא רואה, שהוא מרגיש, אבל הוא נותן כביכול את קדמת הבמה לחלק הראשון, לחלק העמוק יותר. אז שרי בגבת מדגיש שזה לא שאנחנו צריכים לעשות את ההקשבה הזאת, אנחנו לא צריכים עכשיו להתאמן בהקשבה, צריך להתאמן בראייה, צריך להתאמן בלא להתערב. אז זה לא שאנחנו צריכים להתאמן בכל אלה, אנחנו פשוט, החלק השני, מי שאנחנו חושבים שאנחנו, צריך להבין מילאתי אותה.
מה קרה?
Do you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Oh,
Okay, sorry. There was some interruption. So I just finished the translation, and אז החלק השני פשוט צריך להבין שהוא סוג של מכשיר, סוג של שליח של החלק הראשון, וצריך להניח לחלק הראשון לפעול בעולם. זהו. That's it, Chubaga.
okay.
Yeah, well, I have one question.
Okay. Oh.
So basically, if I understand correctly, then the first part has no notion of future. It only reacts to what's happening right now. So if I need,
No.
let's say I need to go in 5 minutes to a meeting, okay, and
Yeah.
there is lots of scenarios in that meeting that can happen. So the second part should analyze all options.
No.
And then submission means I don't care what's the outcome. I'm going in and whatever happens, happens. And then the first part comes to play. Is this the right?
So the second part has some option. The first part, unable to understand. You, in other way, you can use some other words to convey
Yes.
your message.
Yes. There is a meeting in 5 minutes. Many people in the room. I need to go into the meeting and I need to analyze all the options, how the meeting will go. Okay, this is the second part. I say if this guy say that, I will say that. If this guy will say that, I will say that. This is the second part, preparing for the meeting. Then I go into the meeting. At that point, in order to allow the first part to act in the meeting, I need to basically be in a place where I don't care what is the outcome. The second part simply does not, because future is a notion of the second part, not the first part.
No, yeah.
So anything about the outcome and what will happen after the meeting and what is the consequences of whatever is going to happen is all second part. So in order for the first part to act, I need to go into the meeting and simply say to myself, whatever happens, happen. I accept any outcome. I'm not going to interfere. The first part is going to act.
But the first part will not have some oscillation of mind. The second part alone has the oscillation of mind. So the second part has to think what will happen next, what will happen earlier, and what will happen. It will be think like that. As you say, it will thinking with related to the future. But even though the second part is a portion of the totality of the mind. So, but mainly The second part alone is having this kind of oscillation. What we have to do next, what we have to do, how to face the future, or like this. So this is but it is one of the duty of the second part. Then only it has to give suggestion. It is able to give suggestion to the our action. But at the same time, the first part will be always related to action, but it will not have any the oscillation of mind. It is mainly related to action. So, but the second part alone will have such kind of oscillation. But mainly, if the second part is taking the main role of the submission or the receptive mode, in the second part will be always, but mainly the second part is having the main role throughout our life, throughout the day. The second part alone is taking the role. Then only the problem of psychological suffering and everything is happening only because of the second part. The second part is unnecessarily wandering here and there and creating this and that. Then only it struggles within itself. And the main role of the second part is also the submission. The receptive mode is the main role of the second part. If it is in the receptive mode, even though it is in the wandering way, the wandering action will not affect the our psychological system.
Okay, so and what can you say a bit more about this receptive mode of the second part?
Receptive mode is for example, if you are listening a sound or anything, what is happening, receiving everything in the mind or anything, or receiving the some attending the aware or attending the thought of ourselves, attending what is happening. So that is a receptive mode. It is also part of the second part. And that is the second part has to, the receptive mode is the main thing. So the receiving, listening, watching, that is the main role of the second part. If the main role is there, main role of the second part is taking, the unnecessary wandering thought will be very less.
So it's basically taking the second part from future and past to now.
Yeah. It is like that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Lanir, you can translate the discussion.
Okay. אז דני שאל לגבי הטבע והתפקיד של החלק השני של הנפש שלנו. ואחרי כמה העברות, שרי בגבת דיבר על זה שהתפקיד העיקרי של החלק השני הוא היכולת שלו להיות אטנטיב, היכולת שלו להיות קשוב בהקשבה, שזה התפקוד העיקרי והבריא של החלק השני. ודני הוסיף ואמר שבעצם זה כמו לקחת את בעצם להביא את המיינד מהעבר ומהעתיד אל עבר מה שקורה עכשיו. ושרי בגבת אמר שכן, זה אכן כך. ואני הייתי רוצה להוסיף גם ששוב הכוונה היא, וזה דגש חשוב, לא שעכשיו נתאמן בלהחזיר את המיינד לרגע הזה. זה תרגול שהוא יכול להיות טוב בזמן מסוים, אבל העניין העיקרי הוא ההבנה. וההבנה למעשה שהחלק בסדר. אז העניין העיקרי ששרי בגבעת מצביע עליו זה ההבנה שהדברים הם כך, שהחלק השני הוא סוג של מכשיר, שלמחשבות של העבר והעתיד אין חשיבות מרובה. בעצם ההבנה הזאת היא כבר לוקחת את תשומת הלב מהעבר ומהעתיד ומביאה אותו לרגע הזה. לא כתרגול, אלא כהבנה. That's it, Shri Bagavath.
Okay.
I added to what you said before regarding the present moment, bringing the second part to the present moment to now. And I said that it is not really a practice, but a more an understanding.
If you consider ourselves to be the second of ourselves, so it is a submission. So I am not the main thing. The main thing is the totality of our mind. So if you take ourselves to be the secondary one, the very understanding ourselves, taking ourselves to be the secondary one, the very understanding will take you to the sensitivity, or the sensitivity role, or the receptive mode. It is not a practice.
So, אז שרי בגבעת אומר שעצם זה שהחלק השני מבין שהוא לא בעל החשיבות הגדולה. במילים אחרות שהמחשבות, התפיסות, הרעיונות, הם כמו שהם, סך הכל מחשבות, תפיסות ורעיונות, ואין להם חשיבות מי יודע מה. ברגע שהחלק השני מבין והוא בעצמו, החלק השני הוא בסך הכל, הוא בנוי מתפיסות, רעיונות ומחשבות, אז הוא לא בנוי ממשהו אחר. ברגע שהוא לא נותן חשיבות למחשבות, תפיסות ורעיונות, למעשה הוא לא נותן חשיבות לעצמו. ואז כשהוא לא נותן חשיבות לעצמו, כשהוא מבין שהוא החלק הפחות חשוב בתמונה הגדולה, אז באופן טבעי עולה בו הרגישות הזאת, עולה בו יכולת ההתבוננות, יכולת ההקשבה. כך שזה פחות לתרגל את זה, וזה יותר להבין את המקום והמשניות של החלק השני. That's it.
And naturally, when the wandering mind is going on, our thinking and thought is going on like this, naturally we'll have some idea that I am supreme, I am everything, I can do anything. So in this way, we can have an idea like this. It is also natural. Because I can do something, I can execute something. In this way, it will be like that. So the understanding that I am only the secondary, I am taking the secondary role alone, this understanding will help to the opening, that is the opening our heart. That means the receptive mode. So that is why in all religion and everything, the submission to God is preached. So this is the main thing. Then only we can submit. The submission, when we submit ourselves, we are totally all right. Everything will be all right. So here the receptive mode opens. Otherwise, the receptive mode is very dormant and submit. It is not yet taken a primary role. Only the wandering thought alone will take the primary role. So if you take the wandering thought as a secondary one, and then even within the mind itself, within the secondary part itself, the receptive mode is the first part, and the wandering aspect is the second part. We can, even the second part itself, we can divide into first and second. Here, the receptive mode is the first part, and the wandering aspect is the second part. So the wandering aspect, I understand that I am unnecessarily confusing everything, and some beyond myself, some my intensive action, intensive aspect is there. So that is the total mind. The total mind is beyond myself, and the total mind is look after everything, and in this way it has to submit itself. So anyhow it has to understand the secondary nature of itself. So that is the main thing.
כן. אז שיר בגבת שוב בעצם מדגיש את הנקודה שההבנה של עצמנו כחלק משני היא המפתח, הקנייה הזאת והידיעה שיש מאחורינו משהו גדול יותר. האינטליגנציה העמוקה שלנו יכולה לבוא לידי ביטוי רק אם אנחנו מבינים בעצם ומפנים את הדרך לה. ובגלל זה כל הדתות וכל המסורות, רבות מהם הדגישו את הכניעה לרצון האלוהי. אז בעצם הם קראו לחלק הראשון אלוהים. וכאן בעצם שרי בגבת מצביע על זה שהחלק הזה שקוראים לו אלוהים, זה פשוט החלק העמוק יותר שלנו. כאשר החלק השני מבין שבעצם החוכמה לא נמצאת אצלו. אז הוא פשוט נהיה באופן טבעי שקט יותר. הוא נהיה ענב יותר. ואז הרגישות הזאת, ההקשבה, הראייה השקטה הופכת להיות דומיננטית באופן טבעי, ולא המחשבות שקופצות מפה לשם והדעות והרעיון. That's it.
Okay. If any discussion, we can have.
Can you say something about the fear of basically, if I understand correctly, we're talking about letting go. It's about losing control and about letting the first part function. And the first part doesn't have any notion of future or past. It's just react to the situation. So this is you need to basically let go. Can you say something about the fear that's associated with this?
So what kind of fear? So actually, the second part takes the main role. It cannot solve the situation. So if you think it cannot solve the situation, naturally the fear comes. So that because if the first part takes the role, it will not have any idea. It will, some action alone will be there. So there is no chance of fear. For example, if you are afraid of any disease, even before the disease, you may be afraid of the disease. If the disease has come, you will not be afraid of the disease because the action alone will be there. So without meeting the problem, our mind is unnecessarily afraid of the thing. If the meeting the situation, there will not be any fear. Only the facing this problem alone will be there. So in this way, the first part is not having any fear. The second part alone is initiating the fear. because it is thinking this and that, then only unnecessarily creating fear.
Right.
So here, so if you submit to the what is happening, if we submit ourselves that I am only the second part, I don't have any power to deal with anything, and at the same time, the main role of ourselves will take care of everything. In this way, it have to come to a conclusion like this, and the fear will be minimized. Even though because of this some wrong notion that I can face the situation, I am unable to face the situation, then only unnecessarily initiating a fear. If you submit itself to the main role, to the main aspect, the first part, so if the second part takes us, if the second part wholeheartedly accept its second nature, it is inferior nature, that itself will solve the problem.
And this is intellectual understanding.
Intellectual understanding. Because we have to understand everything only intellectually.
Yeah. So if there is fear, just accept the fear, right?
Not accept the fear. So accept the fear. If you come to a conclusion that I have to accept the fear, it is not work. It will not work, because we have to accept the secondary nature of our mind. So that is the main thing. The person who is accepting the fear, we have to accept the secondary nature of the ourself. So that is the main thing. So then it will solve the problem. It will solve the fear itself. Accepting the fear will not solve the problem. But when you accepting the nature of the secondary nature of ourselves, naturally what will happen means we are accepting the fear correctly. So acceptance of fear will take the role. But it happens when we accept the secondary nature of ourselves.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sri Bagavath,
Okay.
can you say that fear is in a way is a secondary effect of the first part, of the second part? It's a secondary effect of the second part. And once the second part understand it's when you understands, I don't know how to say this.
Realize his own position,
Yeah.
his own status.
When the second part realize its secondary status. Then, yes, then it is in a way it doesn't create fear anymore.
So if it accept the secondary nature, then it will not take the role of clearing everything. It will not take the role of solving the problem.
Yes.
So if it is take the primary role, then only it has to escape from the problem, escape from the fear, escape from the problem. So because if it is a secondary one, what will the action will be in the it shift the role of action to the first part. Otherwise, if the secondary part takes the role of the action, it has no power to deal with the fear or anything. It will not have any role of dealing with the action. So it has to suffer with it itself.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Sri Ramana Maharishi. He used to say about a statue, that a stone statue that is it seems like he is bearing the weight of a building, but actually he's not he's not lifting anything. So this is like the second part. He sees itself that he is doing everything. But he has to realize that actually he is just a tool. And somewhat like move aside or clear the way, which means what you say, being attentive, being receptive.
So the mode.
We don't hear you, Sri Bagavath.
Some break has happened.
Okay.
So the receptive mode is happening when we accept in the secondary nature. We need not create the receptive mode.
Yes.
So J. Krishnamurti also says, thinking of a problem is just like escaping from the problem. So we need not think about the problem. So this is just like thinking. If you, that means the thinking, actually thinking alone with the, only because of thinking alone we can plan anything. But in the external action is concerned, the thinking takes a major role. But thereby our thinking assumes a greater role, that I am the everything, I am the boss and I am the king. So in this way, it takes the primary role. Because of that alone, we have to understand we are only the secondary role. We are by our nature, we are only the secondary nature. Then only the acceptive mode, the receptive mode will happen.
Yes, like the receptive mode is not a byproduct of practice. It is a byproduct of understanding. It is a byproduct of, you can say
you can say as a fiber, but it's already there. Receptive mode is the main thing. It is already there, but anyway, it happened just like a byproduct.
Yes. Yes.
אפשר לתרגם משהו?
They wanted to translate.
Okay.
אוקיי, אז היה פה דיון מעניין שאני כבר שכחתי חלק ממנו. אז אני אנסה לתרגם את מה שאני זוכר. בעצם השורה התחתונה של כל מה שדיברנו עליו, וכל מה שעסקנו בו, זה שהאני, האגו, החלק השני, איך שלא תרצו לקרוא לזה, הוא צריך להבין את זה שהוא רק שחקן משנה בהצגה הזאת. וכשהוא זז הצידה, אז הכל מסתדר. כשהוא רוצה להיות המלך, הכל מסתבך. הוא צריך להבין שהוא השר, הוא לא המלך. הוא לא ראש הממשלה, הוא אחד השרים. אפשר לפטר אותו, אפשר להביא שר אחר. אבל כשהוא לוקח את הפוזיציה של ראש הממשלה, אני אעשה, אני יודע, אז הוא מסתבך והוא סובל והוא רב עם עצמו. כשהוא בתפקיד היועץ, הוא יודע, אני רק היועץ, אני רואה חלק מהתמונה. יש מישהו מעליי שהוא רואה את כל התמונה. אז אני יכול להגיד מה אני רואה, אבל מי שבסופו של דבר יקבע זה לא אני. וכשיש את ההבנה הזאת, כשיש את הקנייה הפנימית הזאת, אז נוצרת בהירות בהכרה. הבהירות הזאת, לפי שרי בגבת, היא תמיד הייתה שם. ה-attentiveness הזה, ההקשבה הזאת, השקט הזה, אפשר לקרוא לזה, הוא תמיד היה שם. אבל כאשר אנחנו מבינים בעצם להשתמש בשפה היהודית, בשפה של התנ"ך, את השפלות של האדם, לא במובן שהוא אדם חסר ערך, אלא זה שיש לו תפקיד, אבל הוא לא הדבר המרכזי. כשאדם מבין את זה, אז באופן טבעי עולה בו האיכויות האלה של הקשבה, של שקט, של שלום פנימי, של ראייה שווה, עולים באופן טבעי. ואז אפשר להגיד שדרך בן אדם כזה, האלוהי יכול לתפקד. החלק הראשון יכול לתפקד דרכו, כי הוא כביכול ביטל את עצמו. הוא הפך את האני לעין, הוא הביא את היוד למרכז. האני לקח את היוד מהסוף, שם אותו במרכז, הוא הפך לעין, ואז אלוהים יכול לתפקד. יכול סוף סוף להתגשם דרך אותו בן אדם, ולפעול בעולם הזה לטובת אותו בן אדם ולטובת הסביבה כולה. That's it, Bagavath.
Okay.
בבקשה.
I think the time is also over. We can safely meet, and then next week we'll take your leave all.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
much.
Goodbye. Thank you very much.
Bagavath.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll stop recording.